this whole movement. And the Ferguson case was a justified shooting when we looked at it. Some of these aren't. But the issue is, this is a synthetic, artificial program. And I'm going to play the clips, get into what happened, break it all down. Our reporters that are on the ground, Kari Jackson, Joe Jennings. We've got all the clips of Black Lives Matter, even here in Austin, going oink, oink, bang, bang, you're dead. Deck the halls with dead cops, fa la 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 la. This is the organized attempt to kill so many police and cause so much fear that then Loretta Lynch comes in to, quote, reform the police. It's like Al Sharpton said, we're using the police shootings to federalize, and they should all be federalized. Remember that clip? That's all this is a power grab. Where some cop in Minnesota does something wrong, so cops die in Dallas because of the color of their skin. Or a cop does something wrong in New York, so cops get killed in Missouri. I mean, it's total bull, and it's orchestrated. The Black Power Political Organization, as it's called, has claimed responsibility online for this and says more killings of white people are coming. And, of course, that will just lead to more institutional targeting of innocent black people, which is part of the larger plan carried out by the Judas goat, Barack Obama. This is truly sickening. Obama has massively increased funding to abort even more black people. I guess 51% wasn't enough. They've jacked that up to 53% now a year. And they basically have forced abortion in a bunch of African countries where if they want to be able to get any type of government training or schooling or funding, they have to basically get sterilized or agree to not have children. But that's okay because Obama's supposedly black, so it's all right. Black Power Group claims responsibility for police killings and warns of more assassinations to come. We've got some compilations of some of these similar groups, including right here in Austin, marching around saying bang, bang, or oink, oink, bang, bang, you're dead. And it's just crazy. The truth is the average cop, be they white, black, or Hispanic, is scared to go into predominantly black areas and are scared to render services. And now crime rates are exploding across the nation in the black areas. And black people are dying. But logic, just seems to get in the way of the brainwashing because you have the president and the mainstream media acting like this is all legitimate, lying to everyone. More black people die in Chicago every year at the hands of black people than die at the hands of the police every year. In fact, we need to put that headline out. That's the FBI's own numbers. Some years, there's over 400 black people that die in Chicago. In fact, let's look up the latest national numbers. Numbers of people that die a year in shootings in Chicago, and 90-something% are black, so you can get that number. And then total, 258 blacks died in 2015 shot by police. And you can come up with a number that in Chicago, more black people die a year at the hands of black people than all police kill every year. But it's not even on the radar screen. Chicago crosses 2,000 shooting victims this year. Yeah, last time I heard it was like, I was going from memory, it was something like 400 dead African Americans. I think that's an old number a year in Chicago. So it's 2,000 is shot. How many is it dead? Oh, but that's a non-issue. I mean, I legitimately care about everybody's lives. I legitimately care that Gardasil's linked to sterilization and lost fertility and that they're shooting every Mexican girl so they can go to public school in Mexico up with it. I legitimately get really pissed off at that. People go, well, how is that you're being overrun by Mexicans who are they being turned into political weapons against America but you don't want them sterilized? Yeah, I don't sink to other people's levels. I oppose movements that are evil, but I don't oppose individual human souls. So if black folks particular want out of the vice grip they're in, the bear trap, they need to listen to me because I know what's going on. And my message to the police is coming up next and then to Obama and others. I'm going to break all this down, but let's hear from Ben Carson on Fox News today, really breaking it down. Here it is.
Well, obviously it's extraordinarily troublesome. And these people were ready, waiting for an opportunity. And it really should make us think about what is going to happen. You know, there are terror cells all over our country. There are professional agitators all over our country looking for opportunities. And these opportunities do arise. They will continue to arise because, you know, there are bad apples in the police force like there are bad apples in everything. They're bad surgeons. But the vast majority of surgeons are wonderful people. So, you know, these opportunities will continue to happen, and they will continue to do these things. But I guess the real issue is that, you know, the president's going to start saying, see, gun control, that solves the problem.
And we heard from the president already this morning, even bringing up gun control. Listen to this.
Yeah, and the
hold on, Dr.
gun
Carson,
control people
got a soundbite.
Undoubtedly about their twisted motivations. But let's be clear, there's no possible justification for these kinds of attacks or any violence against law enforcement. We also know that when people are armed with powerful weapons, unfortunately it makes attacks like these more deadly and more tragic. And in the days ahead, we're going to have to consider those realities as well.
Pardon the earlier interruption, Doctor. Is right now the time to get political?
Now is definitely not the time to get political. Now is the time to use logic and ask ourselves, why do we have a Constitution? Why do we have a Second Amendment? They're always saying you don't need a high-power weapon to hunt deer. The Constitution is not about deer hunting. It's about people being able to defend themselves from an overly aggressive government or an external invasion. My message would be that we, the American people, are not each other's enemies, but there are those who are trying to stir us up and create conflict for their own nefarious purposes. And we have to be smart enough not to allow them to succeed.
Bingo. Now, when I come back, I'm going to break down the fact of where this is going next. It's going to get a lot worse. ISIS is going to hit as well, and then they're going to have the solution.
We're on the march.
All of our rights. Now, this is the police chief of Dallas. Personally met, seems like a really good guy. He didn't violate our free speech up there when we protested the JFK 40th anniversary, the cover-up. In fact, he just ignored the city when they said that we weren't allowed to demonstrate. So they just hired the Democratic-run sheriff department to attack us later. Over 1 million people watched that on Ustream alone when that happened live. But here he is, the police chief, David Brown, who I know has done a pretty good job up in Dallas, been pro-Second Amendment. Just he's a really good police chief, breaking down exactly what happened. And when they talked to this gentleman before the robot detonated a bomb on him, Micah X. Johnson, this is what he had to say.
And I want to share with you some of the comments from this suspect. The suspect said he was upset about Black Lives Matter. He said he was upset about the recent police shootings. The suspect said he was upset at white people. The suspect stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers. The suspect stated that we will eventually find the IEDs. The suspect stated he was not affiliated with any groups, and he stated that he did this alone. The suspect said other things that are part of this investigation so that we can make sure that everyone associated with this tragic event is brought to justice.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room here in just one moment. We're going to put special reports together where we document all this. We've done it previously, but Obama, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the major universities, Hillary Clinton, Google is one of the worst, Facebook, Twitter. They have all pushed memes and pushed the idea that all police are collectively guilty for what somebody in another state or another jurisdiction, sometimes 2,000 miles away, did. I mean, if I was, quote, Hispanic, I wouldn't be blamed for the Night Stalker who had the last name Ramirez. I mean, if you told me Even I had the last name Ramirez, and they said, oh, this guy Ramirez, 1,000 miles away from you, Mr. Ramirez, it's your fault. I'd say, you're a lunatic. And so would anybody else. Or if some KKK group drags some poor black man to death, in East Texas, I'm not collectively to blame for that. I'm not the crazy white people, ex-cons that did that. But when cops do something wrong or make a mistake, collectively, anybody in a uniform is then to blame. I have some family that are police and military and things, and I mean, I take that personally, not because I have some family, but just for common sense. To sit there and, oh, it looks like a cop shot a black guy in the back in Minnesota. Well, here, let's just go shoot 20-something cops and Black Lives Matter bystanders, because that'll get justice. And you've got the president coming out saying we need to reform the police and we need to restrict the Second Amendment. Wow. No, we need to restrict you and your criminal activities. Cut and dry. Cut and dry. George Soros could be indicted today. Black Lives Matter rhetoric is classically Marxist, classically overthrow the state, insurrection, war. They're constantly shooting their mouths off against us. Because, yeah, I want to reform our government. I don't want to have a big bloodbath and civil war where you stupid communists think you're going to end up on top of things. Do the math, chumps. Maybe there's a few 100,000 social justice warrior idiots that don't even know how to use guns properly. You got a few folks that were in the military know how to use guns right here. I mean, you know what a real civil war that's racially based will look like? What a joke. What a joke. I'm doing everything I can to stop that. Do you understand? It's not my opinion. This is orchestrated. And I'm not talking to our regular listeners, people that are informed. I'm talking to people at Media Matters and the Daily Beast and Time Magazine and all the usual suspects that make jokes about what we talk about here. Look at the headlines today at drudgereport.com from newspapers across the country. Civil war, New York Post. Ambush, Dallas Morning News. America descending into a war. Black Power Group claims responsibility, warns of more assassinations, plans to start a civil war. The end is here. The collapse of America. Well, we may all been taught how to hate America, but you're really going to hate it when your electricity doesn't work and there isn't any food. You think Lehman Brothers going over in 2007, 2008 was a big deal? Deutsche Bank is going under as we speak. We have an expert popping into the third hour. Peter Schiff. I don't get ahead when black people don't do well. I get behind. And when white people don't do well, let me give a news flash, everybody. Black people don't do well. We're all interconnected. Everybody is pretty much getting along. And that's why the globalists have to pull this crap. While they're robbing everybody, they've got to get us at each other's throats. And I know I've said that 50 times. And I want to talk to the police specifically about what you must historically do. We know how this has been stopped before. And I'm going to talk about our basic liberties and our freedoms. If we don't get really tough and really aggressive right now, and I've done it, I've sent undercover people into these groups. I'm just going to tell, it's not a secret. I mean, we've taken the gloves off around here about a year ago. So that's why we have a lot of really good information. Oh, yeah, we got people going into the communist groups, going into all of them, going into the police review boards. And let me tell you, this is an organized criminal operation we're facing. These are very dangerous people. Very dangerous. And they got a plan. It's communist in nature. It is not a communist conspiracy. Just like the Euro was a Nazi plan, it isn't a Nazi program. It just came from the Nazis. You understand? Kind of like a fiddler crab can pick up somebody else's shell after it after another one dies. That isn't his shell, but he picked it up. It's the same deal. What you're seeing is a communist takeover plan. It isn't communist, it's multinationals. And it's going to cause a bloodbath in this country. I'm going to be just fine, probably. I know what to do. I'm prepared. My family's prepared. We're not stupid. We got gates. We got fences. We're ready.